Everyone. Thanks for joining us here as part of our postgraduate open month online. My name's James. I'm a senior international officer within our international recruitment team here at the University of Salford. And today we're going to talk a bit about applying as an international student and get an understanding of the international student application timeline, what it all looks like. Just so you know, I've got a couple of colleagues in the chat with me as well. And if you do have any questions as we're going along, you've got access to the chat. So please feel free to pop in any questions you might have as we go along. We'll also have time for a Q&A session towards the after the presentation that will allow us to ask any specific questions. Few bits of housekeeping. Please do not share any of your personal information, mobile numbers, your application numbers, things like that. This is a public chat, so you could be giving out your information to anyone. So please just be aware of that. If people ask you to join a WhatsApp group, don't. If you're looking to join an official university WhatsApp group for offer holders or applicants, you can get in touch with your relevant contact within the international office, or you can email us at Salford International and we'll be able to support you there. Right, so to start things off, we'll have a look at what we're going to look through today. So this morning, as I said, we're going to look all through the international student application timeline. So we're going to go through a session around applying as an international student at the University of Salford. We're going to cover areas around our tuition fees and what scholarships we have available for postgraduate students. And then we're going to jump into a Q&A. It's nice and easy as we go along, but we will be able to have a look through that. To answer one question that's popped in about the distance learning application timeline, that's not something that we actively are involved with within our international office. So I'm afraid I can't really advise too much around that. I believe the application process is very similar, but there won't be anything around the visa requirements because you'd be doing it online. So some of this information will still apply as we go. So to start things off, applying as an international student. So I think one of the first things you really need to look at is finding the right course that you want to come and study. Here at Salford, we offer a really huge range of postgraduate courses across our 4 different schools. So we have Salford Business School, our School of Arts, Media and Creative Technology, Health and Society, and our School of Science, Engineering and the Environment. Now, there are, a huge number of courses. So first, identifying exactly what subject area you want to go into. You want to have a look at if there are different opportunities while studying, so things like work placement opportunities. We have quite a few programs that offer a year in industry at postgrad level, and how all that process works. So looking into those areas, something that's really important, and sort of my top tips for before you apply for a course is to check out the course modules, look at the teaching and assessment of the course. Is it exam based? Is it coursework based? Is it practical based? Looking into that. Also reviewing the entry criteria and English language requirements for the program, and reviewing the tuition fees as well. I will talk about our tuition fees and scholarships later on, but they're not really negotiable. So our fees are what they are, our scholarships are what they are, and so ensuring that it is something that is within your affordability is something that's really important to review. For areas like the course modules and the learning assessment, we have very detailed course pages for all of our programs on our website. So within there, you can dig into the course information and find out exactly what modules you'll be studying, how it will be assessed for the whole course. So it's really helpful to have a look through that and going through from there. Okay, so the next thing I would say is looking into our different intakes for postgraduate programs. As a university, we have 3 academic intakes a year for postgraduate programs. We have the September intake, which is open to all of our programs, all of our schools. We have the January intake, which has programs within our business school, some postgraduate courses for our School of Science, Engineering and Environment, and some of our health and society programs. And then we have a June intake, which is the business school only. So looking into these areas, pretty important. Make sure you've got the right timeline. And if there is a sooner intake available and you wish to join, you can. We list all of our available intakes on our website through the link that's on the screen at the moment. So it's worthwhile having a look through to that. Now, to look into what we require for an application, we have an online application form that's available. So it's at apply.salford.ac.uk. And within there, you can begin to put together your application. So typically, we would need your completed application form, a full education history, so looking into your academic transcripts and certificates. We would look for an accepted English language qualification, a copy of your passport photo page, and any relevant UK visas you've had. They could be tourism, they could be previous study, anything with you coming to the UK. Very, very important to have a look through. A personal statement about why you want to study this program at the University of Salford. And we would also ask for a reference letter, which could either be academic or professional. Depending on what program you're looking to study, there may be other requirements as well. So some of our programs require a portfolio or an audition, particularly within our School of Arts, Media and Creative Technology. And several programs may require an interview for admission. Other courses may have specific criteria, things like some of our health science master's programs, which would ask for necessary professional hours covered or to be a fully qualified nurse if you want to get into some of the nursing programs, things like that. So it's worthwhile exploring this as well. Regarding English language qualifications, we do accept a really broad range of CELT. IELTS is how we measure everything. So typically our program may say it's got an IELTS requirement of 6.0, no less than 5.5 in any one language skill. We do accept lots of other qualifications, and they're all listed on our website. So things like Indian Standard 12, WIEC, 1119, various others. So worthwhile having a look through that, because if you have that, you won't necessarily need to take an IELTS in addition. It's just IELTS is the benchmark we use for everything. Cool. So as I've said, we have an online application. So you can apply directly to the university for postgraduate programs through the online portal. However, a lot of students will make use of one of our approved agencies to apply. And our approved agencies can support you with your application and be a nominated contact to sort of liaise with the university on your behalf. If you want to find out if an agency is approved by the university, you can get in touch with the university and we're able to confirm who we work with. All of our agencies that we do work with have been vetted and approved by the university and are given regular training about our programs and processes. So you can trust that, the approved agencies are ones that we work very closely with. Now, within the application portal itself, on here, you can upload new documents. You can view and download any of your offer letters. And you can also defer to another intake via the portal. So if, for example, you've applied for the June intake, but your final results aren't going to be ready in time, things like that, you can request to defer it to the next available intake for the program. So it's a good way of having a look through. Okay, one of the other really important things to have a look at is going to be looking at our application deadlines. So there's quite a few different deadlines that you need to be aware of applying to Salford. So we have the main application deadline, so when we're open until we close main applications. We then have a conditions deadline, which would be that once you've got an offer, how long you have to meet all of your conditions, including financial. We have a CAS request and documentation deadline, and we have a registration deadline as well. So all of these are really important to be aware throughout the cycle. It's particularly as in the last few years, we've had some programs that have been very, very popular and have filled up early. So to check out our application deadlines, we do publish this all online. We list which programs are still open. So it's worthwhile having a check through that as you're going along. So in sort of summary, I quite like a visual. So an application timeline. So what it looks like is that you will go from your submitting your initial application. It will be assessed by our admissions team and they will make you a conditional offer. A conditional offer would be if you meet these conditions, you will then get an unconditional offer. The conditions could be anything from submitting an English language qualification that's accepted, could be meeting your academic entry criteria, it could be conducting an interview. But the final condition most students and applicants meet is the deposit payment of £5,500. Then from there, you move to the unconditional offer stage. With an unconditional offer stage, hey, you've got an offer. Brilliant. So everything's looking to go ahead, and then you move forward to the CAS stage. And this is where our CAS team will get in touch with you and request you to submit a CAS request. So within that, you can upload your documents, everything else. And then once your CAS has been issued, move forward to the visa stage, apply for your visa, get your visa, and then travel to the UK and register on your main course study. So just for a bit of a visualization, I think it's quite handy to get a bit of an idea for that. Now, moving on to fees and scholarships. Fees will vary depending on what course you want to study and the other options that are included with them. So things like industrial placement years or some master's programs might be 2 years. So it's 2 years of tuition, things like that. We do list all of our individual fees on course pages. So it's worthwhile reviewing that for your courses. But we do have our fees typically range between £16,560 to £20,990. Again, this depends on the course of study. So it's worthwhile to have a look through and check this out. Now, when it comes to scholarships at the university, we give out quite a few different ones. All of our scholarships come in the form of a tuition fee reduction. They're automatically applied and do not require an application. So when you put in your application, if you've met the criteria for one of these scholarships, it should be automatically applied to your record. So the two main ones that we have are the Global Gold Excellence and the Global Silver Excellence scholarships. Now, these are based on academic merit. So to get the Global Gold, you need a first class undergraduate degree or an equivalent. And that would give a £3,000 tuition fee discount. The silver applies in the same way, so it's £2,500 and it's for a 2-2 degree or equivalent. We do have a couple of different, one other main scholarship that comes in, which is a loyalty discount. And this is available for University of Salford students who progressed from an undergraduate program into a postgraduate program. It's also worthwhile that we do have a few programs that are at masters that are not eligible for the gold and silver scholarships. So things like the MA Fashion Design, the Occupational Therapy, and the MA Wildlife Documentary Production programs aren't available within those programs. It's worthwhile. Again, we do review and have all of our terms and conditions for our scholarships available on our website. So it's worthwhile to have a look through that as well. All right. That brings me through over to the Q&A section. I can see that there are quite a lot of questions coming through. The first question that I can immediately jump into answer, it says if you I don't have a 2-2, you have a second class upper, so 2-1. So with a 2-1, you would be eligible for the silver award, which would be the 2,500. You have to have a first class or higher, well, a first class in order to get the gold award. Okie doke. Right. Trying to have a look through. And Right. If you have very, very specific admissions questions, this probably is not the forum to ask them in, unfortunately. So I can see there's a query around an existing offer. I would suggest getting in touch with either your regional contact at the university or directly with our admissions team to raise that. I don't think we will have the scope to go into specific questions here as it goes through, and regarding CAS, so CAS are typically processed 6 months, or well, we can begin issuing CAS 6 months before the start of the main program intake. So the September intake, that is normally mid September when it will open up. So typically we'll be issuing CAS from mid March, as it's 6 months before. There are some additional fees for the placement year options within Salford Business School. I believe it is around £2,000 additional. However, when you apply for those programs, typically they will you'll apply for the main course of study, and then once you've started the course, you'll begin looking for a placement. So with finding the placement, you've got support from our careers team, everything else. And then from there, you're able to, once you've secured your placement, you're then able to do your visa extension within the UK, and then the placement fee will be applied. That will cover everything from your visa extension to your NHS surcharge and everything else. In regards to what happens to your deposit if your visa is refused, that will depend on why your visa is refused. So if it is due to, fraudulent documents, things like that, your deposit won't be refunded. Okay, it's a good one. Are there part-time jobs available on campus for master's students? Yes, yes, there are. So with um, studying on a student visa, you can work up to 20 hours a week during term time. Now, obviously, you're studying full time. That's the primary reason of your visa. So I personally wouldn't recommend doing more than 15 hours work per week, but we do have an on-campus job shop within Unitemps. And with Unitemps, they are able to place students in various different roles around the university. So for there, there's different opportunities within the schools to help out with things like open days, various other things. So there's good opportunities to find part-time work through Unitemps as we go along. Okay, what else have we got going through? There's a question regarding Indian scholarships aligning with our university. DJ, can you expand on what you're asking for that? What else have we got? Right. There's one question. Let's see from Soria. When will I know my scholarship is conditional offer or unconditional offer? So, if you've met the academic entry criteria for the program, your scholarship should be automatically applied. So, if you've met the academic conditions, that's what the scholarships are based on, and so it will go through from there. So, if you've achieved a 2-2, you'd be eligible for the silver if you're on an eligible program. If you've got a first class or higher, well, first class, you would get the gold. Okay, so there's one question regarding achieving scholarships. Can I still have an unconditional offer before the outcome of your result? The short answer will probably be no. If typically if you're applying for achieving scholarship, then you are looking for it to be funded. I believe there is a requirement of Chevening to have an offer from the university so they can take forward and assess your application. It would most likely be that the only outstanding condition you would have would be the deposit payment, which I believe typically is okay. Nick, can you chime in regarding Chevening as our resident expert?
Yeah, sure, James. I put an answer in the chat there, but basically, in order to secure an unconditional offer for a Chevening student, you'd have to apply first, obtain an offer, fulfill the conditions of the offer in terms of academic and English language qualifications, and then supply proof that Chevening have granted the scholarship. So the offer wouldn't go fully unconditional until we'd got that. However, when a student is at the stage where he or she has met all the English language and academic requirements, we can produce a letter for Chevening saying there's nothing else to satisfy. The student's ready to go. All we need is the final financial confirmation from Chevening.
All right, bro. Thank you, Nick.
No
Very
worries.
handy to know. Yeah, and there's a similar question going through around deposit payment for sponsor. I would say if your only condition is remaining on your deposit, I would submit this to the sponsor as it goes through from there. We work with quite a few different sponsoring bodies, so usually we can amend and help out for this because if you're looking for sponsorship, usually it would be our understanding that your sponsor would cover the full cost of your deposit and tuition. Oh, I've jumped around some slides apparently. One of the other things that would be useful, if you do have specific academic questions, it would be worthwhile taking part in our Meet the Tutor live sessions that are happening throughout the week. There are a number of different ones taking place across each school, and the QR codes will take you to each sort of registration page for that. There you can speak to our academics directly. So if you have very specific course questions, this would be the best place to go and ask them. We can help to a certain degree, but none of us in here are teaching stuff. So we're not going to be able to go into the same level as detail as some of our colleagues within our academic schools. So worthwhile having a look at. Okay, so someone's asked about deadlines. As I said, we publish all of our deadlines online. So we have our application deadlines section of the website. Within there, we go by every intake and program and list our different deadlines. So it's worthwhile checking that out online. There's a question of, are we still accepting applications from Africa? Yes, we are. Another regarding Duolingo. Duolingo is not an accepted test at the University of Salford. You can find a full list on our website under English language qualifications, and there we have a list of all the programs, or all the English language qualifications that we accept. Yep, Nina's posted the international application deadline section of the website in our chat as well, so worthwhile having a look at that. I'm going to pin it. If you pay the full fees after getting a CAS, but before the visa application, can I get an updated CAS? I wouldn't recommend doing this, bluntly. I would say that if you paid your deposit payment, great, you've got your CAS, brilliant. Apply for the visa and then look to pay the rest of the fees when you begin the main course of study. If something goes wrong, it means that you are potentially waiting longer to get money back, anything else. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Another query around changing your course. If you need to change from international business to supply chain, you would typically need to put in a separate application in order to change your course of study so that you're applying for. So you can easily submit another application via the portal. Question regarding references. So, is there a specific format for references, academic and professional, and must you provide before your unconditional offer is given to you? The reference is a condition of your offer. We don't necessarily ask for a specific format, but a letter confirming who the person is and what their relationship to you is very helpful. And these typically can be uploaded to our application portal and then will be applied along with your application and go through from there. Okay, and another reference one. How many referees are required? Typically one, unless your application you're applying like through an APEL sort of scenario. So you're looking to apply your practical work experience to it, in which case we may ask for two. But typically one referee is fine. Okay, I've got a question regarding university accommodation. There are other sessions going on throughout the week that can go into accommodation a bit more. I believe typically we have our John Lester and Eddie Coleman courts that are available for postgraduate students to stay in. These are a sort of short walk, 10, 15 minutes away from our main campus. They are run by CLV, Campus Living Villages. So there's more information around that available on our website. Okay, I see a question from Marcel regarding you've submitted your NICO and you're waiting for an unconditional offer. If you've submitted all the documents and met all of your requirements, our admissions team will be processing that. And then once they have processed it, it will, yeah, they'll update your offer accordingly. And Adidaya, who is our lovely rep in Nigeria, will be able to assist and has popped in her details for you to get in touch if you have any questions. Okay, regarding the scholarships, seeing the same sort of questions popping up again. So our main scholarships are the ones listed on the screen at the moment. We do not offer any fully funded scholarships. All of our scholarships come in the form of a tuition fee reduction. So if you've got a first class degree, then you would be eligible for the gold scholarship, which is a £3,000 tuition fee reduction. If you've got a second class lower, a 2-2, then you'd be eligible for 2,500 if it is for an eligible program you are applying for. One question regarding, do you need an experience letter to justify your study gap? I suppose it depends on what kind of study gap it is and the context of your wider application. But typically, I don't believe we do.
I'll just pick up on that one, James, about
Yeah, sure.
study gaps, because it's something JD and I get asked a lot when we're talking to Pakistani applicants. I'm not sure if Ahmed's from Pakistan or not, but it would be the same for any country. Um, Essentially, yeah, if you have a gap in your CV between study, um, it's a good idea to just be able to explain what you were doing at that point. So, for example, perhaps you did your undergraduate degree, and then 5 years later you might be coming back to do a master's. Um, we would generally be looking, hopefully to see that you've been working during that time. Because that's the sort of question that might be asked when you apply for your visa. But we do need to know that as well. So yeah, as part of your application, if there are any gaps in your CV between school and college, or college and university, or university and what you're applying for now, just in the personal statement, or in an attached CV, just give us some details of what you've been doing during that time. And so long as there's something reasonable in that time, that shouldn't be a problem.
Mm. Cool. Just to make things a bit easier, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. So it means that I can get back and I can send some links out to people as they're going through. Seeing a new flurry of questions coming through. Is it possible to pay your remaining tuition fees with the 20 hours work permit? No, is the short answer. You need to have your funds in place before you come to the UK. That is a visa requirement. So make sure you've done that. Our application is still open for the June intakes. I believe we're now closed for June, but some courses may be open. But as said, we do have this all listed on our website. So looking still open for some. There you go. Right. Got a question from Priyanka asking, you've got an unconditional offer letter. Congratulations. Good work. When is the best time to apply for a CAS? So if you're coming into the September intake, we won't be issuing CAS until 6 months before the course start date. The CAS team will be in touch directly when you are eligible to apply for your CAS and request it. So it's probably worthwhile having a look through what documentation you might need to have ready for them. But yeah, typically it will happen if you're going for September from midway through next month. There's a question from Juliet around if you're currently working in healthcare in the UK for over 2 years on another visa route, do you still need proof of English for adult nursing? Very much what I believe will depend on your current situation, what you're doing, and what criteria you had to provide previously. If you have a more specific, want to get in touch specifically with what documentations you have and everything else, you can get in touch with our team via email, and that'll probably be the best way to go through. All right, one question regarding the deadlines for September. So our main deadlines be that our final CAS deadline is the 23rd of June 2025 currently. So you would have to have met all your conditions before then and be ready to go for a CAS. But as we said, some courses do tend to close early if they fill up, so it's worthwhile checking that out as well. Yeah, there was also a previous query around the MSc Finance for June. We don't actually offer MSc Finance for the June intake. The next intake for it will be in September. Okay, Haberdine, if you are unable to register, you need to get in touch with our registration team. It's not something that our team handles, unfortunately. So I would say, yeah, get in touch with the registration team directly. They're the people that run that side. Okay, a couple of questions regarding January 2026 intake. We haven't yet outlined our deadlines or application timelines for the 2026 intake. They will probably come in place in the next 3 to 4 months, but we do regularly update our website once they are published. So I'm just going to pop in a couple of links. This is our intakes available one. And this is our application timeline deadline link.
We've got a query there from Chinwei about classes for full-time students in the MSc Biotechnology. It'll vary from year to year, and this applies to all classes, not just the MSc Biotechnology. The timetabling for programs is usually finished in 1 or 2 months before the program starts, and it can vary from year to year. We teach Monday to Friday, and classes take place usually from 9 a.m. in the morning to about 5 p.m., although there are sometimes evening classes as well. You will get your timetable, at least sort of 2 to 3 weeks before the program starts, but it doesn't run the same every year. So you just need to wait. Some students might find that they have classes spread across 5 days during the week. Other students might sometimes find they only have timetable classes, perhaps 3 or 4 days. It does depend on the program. Things like availability of facilities, lecture theatres, laboratories, and so on. So we can't, unfortunately, say what it's going to be in any given year, but you will be able to access that before you actually start studying.
Cool, thanks, Nick. One question that I just answered regard to deferring to the next semester if you've already paid a deposit. Yes, you can. And so it can all be done via the portal, as we've spoken about earlier. So you can put in to be deferred to the next available intake for your program of study. But do note, not all programs are available for all 3 of the intakes. So in some cases, it might be that the next available intake would be September the following year. So it's worthwhile to have a check if you don't want to wait a full year. Okay, what else have we got popping in? This question, how and when will I get the final fee amount after scholarship? This will be included on your offer letter, Rabbi. So within that, if you've been awarded a scholarship, it will be included on your offer letter, and it will tell you what your full fees for tuition are. It's a good one. When can one travel to the UK for the September intake as an international student? I would say it's from when your visa is valid. Traveling before that is risky. and probably will involve you not being allowed entry into the UK. So you would have a date of when it's valid from outlined on it. Most students will typically arrive a week or so before term starts, so you can take part in like welcome week and induction week, and get over a bit of jet lag before you start your main induction. So worthwhile having a look at that. We offer quite a few different events throughout welcome weeks, so it's worthwhile having a look through. Okay, Nick, I see you've already answered Joyce's question regarding installment payments. For postgrad, I believe it is up to 7 payments. This would be after your deposit payment has obviously been made already, 5,500, and then at registration and induction, you'd be able to set up your payment scheme. Typically, they would be divided into equal payments. See, again, we've had a very specific question regarding MSc Biotechnology. I would recommend going into the Meet the Tutors side to speak with the academics on that side. We can give general advice around teaching, but teaching does change each year. So it's better off asking that directly to some of our academic team. Okay, see, Adidaya and Nick have answered that side. Is it possible to have one-to-one discussions with the course guide? If you mean the academic tutors, absolutely. We have a number of meet tutor sessions taking place throughout the week, and with that, you can speak directly with various tutors. There is a link, well, not a link, a number of QR codes on this graphic available. So yeah, do have a look, see if you can find the relevant course you're looking for. Okay, is IELTS UKVI accepted for English language requirements for postgraduate courses? Yes, yes, it is. We do accept IELTS. We accept a number of other English language qualifications as well. Okay, we're getting quite a lot of the same questions again and again, so please do have a look through the chat because colleagues have been replying to these questions throughout. If you're having issues signing into the application portal, you can reset your password via the portal itself. On there, yeah, I'd say double check your junk email just to make sure it's not being missed. And yeah, have a look via that way. Okay, we've had one regarding payment plans again. So payment plans for postgraduate programs, you can pay up to 7 installments. So this would be set up at your induction registration. You would still need to have paid your £5,500 deposit before this, because else you wouldn't have got to the CAS stage. And then it would be set up from there. So it's up to 7. If you do pay it in full, you can get a prompt payment discount. Okie doke. We are coming towards the end of the session. If you do have any additional questions, please do let us know. Mary, what's the total fees? What fees are you inquiring about? It will vary from course to course. Oh, that is a good question from Robert. Is there a portal you can pay payment directly to the university? And is there a difference in fee applying through an agent and applying directly? So you can make a direct payment to the university for deposits, things like that, via Flywire. That's our main system that we use. Now, there aren't any application fees. So we don't charge an application fee. And our agencies don't charge application fees typically. So within that, they're able to support you with your application. Agencies typically are paid by universities. So there wouldn't be any additional cost to yourselves. Okay, management programs at master's level typically are around £16,560 for the academic fee. We do list it on each of our course pages, and we have quite a lot of different management programs available. So I'd recommend having a look at the different ones. We do things like business management, managing innovation in IT, procurement, logistics, supply chain management, various others. So it's worthwhile to have a look into those programs, find which one you'd be looking for. Chinwe, if you're looking for a list of university agencies, can you let us know where you're from and one of the team be able to support? From Nigeria, Adedayo, can you support on that one, please? Okie doke. We're going to wrap up this session now, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am just going to post in a couple of helpful links around scholarship information about our intakes that are available and our application deadlines. You can get in touch with the team via email as you need. And Adedayo, who is our in-country rep in Nigeria, has just very kindly shared her contact details. So if you have any questions and you're a student from Nigeria, Adedayo is the person you need to go and speak to. And my other colleague Kitty has just put in, if you have general inquiries about your application and other bits and pieces, you can get in touch with the team at Salford-international at salford.ac.uk and we'll be able to help through from there. Right, thanks everyone for joining. We'll be finishing the session now. Have a good day.